Yeah. I mean, it's the one thing that I do love about this job, and that I say all the time, is I never know what the day is going to bring. So, like, I'll wake up, I have like an agenda when I wake up. You know, we have a sauna and we have like all these things in place that we use to keep ourselves organized. But, I'll wake up on a Tuesday and think, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. And as soon as I log on, I have to completely 180 pivot because either the team has made a change or like there's a fire happening within the community that needs putting out, or like I never know. So that's one of the things I love about Azuki is that it never gets boring because even though I think I know what I'm doing for the day, I don't always know what I'm doing for the day. And so the same thing goes for like, down the line, like what is Azuki going to look like in 2, 3, 5, 10 years? I don't know. I know what we think it's going to look like today, but that could change next week. That could change like 3 months from now. That could change a year from now. Like we do what feels right for our community and for the market and all of this stuff. We're not like so stagnant that we can't ebb and flow with the tide, right? And so I love that we have a plan, but I also love that we can be flexible.
Welcome everyone to Behind the PFP. Today I have a wonderful guest in Rose. Now, she holds a very important position in Azuki as the community manager whose birthday lands on 365 days in the year. But beyond that, she's a well-honored photographer and retoucher, a cat lover, a huge Overwatch fan, and a dubbed anime watcher. Rose, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad and honored to be here with you today.
Well, I'm glad that you would take your time to come onto the show and just be able to chat about everything outside of your Web3 life. I know that we were talking earlier about how NFTs kind of just suck you in. So it's nice to kind of just step outside of it, talk about everything else, because after all, behind our PFPs, we're just humans. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here. I'm like truly honored that you would ask me to do this. I know it sounds weird for me to say that, but I am. Like, I feel like people just assume that I get asked to do stuff all the time, and I don't. And so when you asked me to do this, I was like, yes, definitely. This sounds like so much fun.
Yes, of course. I mean, how can I not have you come on to this show? You're out in the community all the time. When we had a nice run of spaces, you were always on there. Like, you were out in the community and just vibing with everyone. So of course I had to ask you to come on.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Well, to kind of get us started, I'm always interested in hearing about people's experiences in life, their upbringing, travel stories, romance. You know what? I'm a really big what's it called? Oh, a hopeless romantic. I think when I was like 12 years old, I've always wanted to have a family. That was like my main goal, which is kind of weird. I think I just watched too many rom-coms or something. But after I achieved that goal of having a family, I just kind of started thinking like, oh, what should I do next? And now I don't know how, but here I am having a podcast with you.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just want to learn more about your interests, hobbies, anything. So kind of, throw an elevator pitch of who Rose is.
Oh man, I can sum it up into one word. I am a nerd. I've always been a nerd. I was like a closet nerd for a little while, when I was younger and it wasn't cool to be a nerd. And now that I'm an adult, there's just zero shits left to give. Like, I'm married. I don't have anybody to impress. Like, I have the friends that I have. And if I meet somebody and they don't like me, then the hell with them. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just my nerdy self, and I'm living my best nerd life right now, and I can't be happier. So yeah, I'm into video games, I'm into anime, I'm into manga. Manga is like a more recent hobby of mine, which was like a natural progression from the anime. But yeah, that's like me in a nutshell. And I guess one other thing people don't know about me is that I actually come from a music background. So I've played piano, I played violin, guitar, I've sang, I dance, all of that kind of stuff too. But for the most part, I'm just a big nerd.
That actually reminds me, I did remember seeing that you were a choir singer in college.
Yes, I tweeted about the I was in like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My cat just jumped on the desk and I tried to put him down and he fell off the chair.
Oh no.
That's going to happen. I'm sorry. My cat's going to interrupt us probably more than my husband, but
That's okay.
Yeah, I tweeted about being in the gospel choir. So I was in the traditional choir literally from elementary school all the way up through college. And then in college, there was a gospel choir. So I was also in the gospel choir as well. Yeah, that was a whole experience.
Do you still like sing regularly?
To myself, in my car and in the shower, but not outside. No, I always forget, you know how like things have happened in your life in the past and they were so quick that you kind of forget about them until like 10 years later, a random memory hits you and you're like, oh yeah, I used to do that. I used to be in a band at one point right after I got married before I moved to Nashville for like a year. So that was the thing I did. I was the front person for the band that I was in.
Wow. So you're one of many talents.
Yeah, I'm a serious jack of all trades, master of literally nothing.
You might not be a master at one thing, but that diversity of skills allows you to be flexible, and in the position that you're in, it's necessary to be able to switch up and learn on the fly. So, it's a skill in itself to be good at everything.
Yeah, well, I don't think, see, that's the thing is like, I don't think I'm good at everything I try. I think that I'm just a stubborn asshole and I don't like to be defeated by anything. And so like when I want to try something, if I'm not good at it, I'm like, well, screw you. I'm going to do it until I am. And then once I like achieve a certain level of goodness, I'm like, all right, I'm bored. On to the next thing.
I mean, that's a great attitude to have, honestly, in life. And like you were saying earlier, you're at that age where it's like you don't give a shit. I'm definitely at that age too where I just don't care,
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna spend my time thinking about what this person thinks or what this person thinks. I'll give it a minute, and then after that I'm like, whatever, like I'm just gonna keep doing me.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I'm about to go off on a tangent here, but I feel like that's allowed. Like, it's so funny because, being who I am within Azuki, the community manager, I have like a very front-facing persona, right? And it's not like a put-on persona. What you see is what you get. Like, how I am on Twitter is how I am in real life, and that's just all there is to it. But I feel like there aren't very many like people that I come up against and rub the wrong way or vice versa. But when that does happen, I feel like people think that I care a lot, and I don't. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking mostly before Azuki even, but like there would be times something would happen online and I'd be like, okay, whatever. And I'd like go grab a glass of whiskey, like move on, be like, I don't have time for this, whatever. And then a week later I get on Twitter and somebody has tagged me and like left some really snide remark. And I'm like, are you still on that? Like,
Really?
I was like, I moved on like 10 minutes after the whole thing happened because I realized life is too short and I actually don't care. And so it's so funny when I say things like, yeah, I don't care. And people are like, oh, I bet you do because you tweeted about it. And I was like, no, I really don't. Like, I just I tweeted about it and then I went and took a shower and started drinking whiskey and then forgot about it. I don't know. So it's really funny because like it's like I don't know, I'm only 36, but I'm also 36. You know what I mean? Like I feel like my life is halfway done. Like hopefully I live past 65, but you never know, right? And so I just don't have time to worry about people who think I'm dumb for watching Naruto dubbed or like
don't hate on Rose if she's watching Naruto dubbed, okay? Like, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I don't know. I was playing Overwatch right before I got on with you and somebody was like shitting on me for being a sucky DPS and they're like, they called me out because my handle on Overwatch is eRose86. And so I don't know if they were trying to creep me out or if they were just trying to like be ageist, but they're like, I know you're 36, but that's no excuse to be a slacker. And I was like, what does that even mean?
What?
Like, what does that even mean? Like, okay, great. I am a 36-year-old playing a video game and I suck, but I'm having fun. So go fuck yourself. Like, what is that? I don't care.
I mean, you know what? I think it's the space of not just like video games and NFTs, right? It's a space where you can interact with, well, 18-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
Like just kids, and we're at a stage in life where it's like, we don't really care, really.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I'm like, I've accepted that I'm a shit Overwatch player. I've accepted that I'm a shit Hearthstone player. I've accepted that playing Breath of the Wild on Master Mode makes me want to throw my Switch out the window. I get it. You know, like, I'm not a good gamer. I've never once claimed to be a good gamer, but I enjoy games. Like, that's the thing. I don't need to be good at them to enjoy them. And some people, like, want to be judgy about it. I'm like, bro, just let me suck at this game and play with other people who also equally suck at this game, and let us just like have a good time. It's fine, you know?
Oh, it's funny how games evolve, but the people playing the games, you know, like they're still the shit talkers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Modern Warfare 2 was a game that I played a lot of. And yeah, I think Xbox 360 was actually the first kind of console I got growing up. I had like a GameCube, and then the next step up was like an Xbox 360, I think, when I was like, I don't know, 17 years old. And when I jumped on, oh my god, it was a whole different world of just people just making fun of you for anything and everything.
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of games like that anymore, but
Yeah.
I can imagine it's still toxic as fuck. And yeah, now transitioning from that, I wanted to ask you about NFT NYC, Pre-Azuki, and Art Basel. I wanted to get your take on what the difference was between those two events and the events that Azuki has had.
So I hadn't actually gone to Art Basel. That was one I was considering going to, but the only NYC or the only NFT event that I went to pre-Azuki was NFT NYC 2001. And compared to this year's NFT NYC with Azuki, or even NFT LA with Azuki, was a completely different experience, in that Azuki was like just 10,000 times better than what I had experienced, and just kind of blew my mind, you know, and it was really amazing to be a part of something like that. And when we did NFT LA, I wasn't actually on the team. I was still a mod, so I wasn't community manager there. So I had nothing to do with any of that. So I kind of got to experience it from a community perspective, if you will.
Right.
More than a team member perspective, because I didn't know half of what to expect either, you know. And so it just felt like everything was very intentional, and it was, and just very like well planned, and all the other parties I went to felt just kind of like a party, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I just, like, again, I love story, right? So when I go into an event that puts me into a story, I'm like, holy shit, what is this? Like, and even with NFT NYC, like, I knew what was coming. I was on the team at that point, and I still walked through it 3 different times, like once by myself, once when my friend came, and then a second time when my friend was with me, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so
amazing,
cool.
Immersive. Seriously,
Right.
Just a whole story behind every single person, every single thing, the whole walk from the entrance and all the way through the food venues and everything. It was amazing.
And
loved
the food
it.
was so good. Oh my gosh.
Rose, I hate myself for not trying the food. I
You
went
didn't
straight
have
to the
any
drinks.
of the food?
I went straight to the drinks.
Oh no, boo. You should have had I tried anything that didn't have fish, because I don't eat. We had like a fish poppers station, so that I skipped, but
okay.
we had like a chicken thing, and then there was I can't remember what the terms are for any of the food, but like there was that dessert that was filled with either custard or with Azuki bean.
Oh, yes. I remember hearing about that one.
Super good. There was like the pasta place that they shut down their store just to cater our event in that stall.
Wow.
And for those 2 days, and that was insanely good. Like, anytime I got hungry, I just like walked through the line. I'm like, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna have this, and it was just so good. It was
Man, I still can't believe I missed out on the food. I can tell it was amazing, just like the rest of the event. And you know what? I'm happy you had a good time, because I imagine, you know, being the community manager for Azuki can take quite a toll on you sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and that was a lot of it too, was just getting to know like getting to know and meet the community that I actually get to serve every day, which was a lot of fun. And I feel really bad because I know the next event we go to, I'm gonna like, there's certain people's faces that I know really well, either because I met them multiple times or like they've doxed themselves enough times on Twitter, or we've done video calls where I've seen them, things like that. And so like I'll recognize them. Like if I see you again, like I know you're Ren. Like I won't hesitate to know who you are. You know what I mean? I know what I know what all my mods look at. I know what Eve looks like. You know, there's certain community members that I've seen them like multiple times outside of events that I know who they are, but there's other people who like I know very intimately online, but if I see them in person, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, who is that? And I feel like I'm gonna get so much crap the next event because I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm Rose, and I'm like, yeah, I know I met you in NYC, and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. It's
okay. You know what? You can just I'll be the guy who like goes and asks them who they are first, and then I'll tell you.
You just like swing by and like whisper in my ear. That'll be great. Yeah, I just need like a wingman to be like, yo, you met this person last year. That's the
give you the full details of everything. Yeah.
The one that cracks me up is Min. He always gives me shit because he said that when I met him, I think this was in New York, I met him and I said sup, and I was like, that doesn't sound like me. And he was like, no, you totally just said sup, and that was it. And I was like, was I in the middle of doing something? He was like, oh yeah, you were totally distracted by something. I was like, well, that's why, because you like caught me in the middle of trying to solve a problem or execute something or whatever. But you know, so I feel so bad because like I'm gonna make it a point to the next event, like find him and be like, oh my god, man, how are you? Know you.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you should go the opposite direction and just be like, sup again.
Like just too cool for everybody to be like, sup, what's up?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, you know what? I kind of want to talk about that. Like, how has it been being the community manager? So I know it was full of obstacles leading up to that. Most being outside forces unrelated to becoming an Azuki mod and then the community manager. Do you kind of want to take us through that journey, and then beyond that, like, what are your goals moving forward being in the position you are in now?
Boy, that is such a good question that I never know how to answer. So I am, as you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, I'm a photographer. I spent the last 11-ish years of my life being a full-time professional photographer and retoucher. And so Clubhouse came about in 2020, the winter of 2020, somewhere in November, December, somewhere around there. And so I ended up on Clubhouse, and one of my retouching heroes, mentors, what have you, ended up giving a talk on Clubhouse. And so I went scrounging for like, who's got a Clubhouse invite, because you had to be like cool to be there, right? And I wasn't cool. Right. So I was like, who's got a Clubhouse invite? So I got on a Clubhouse, I listened to Pratik and Ike speak, and you know, we had spoken prior to that. He knew who I was, and I obviously knew who he was. But we became better friends because of Clubhouse. We would, you know, hang out in rooms and chat and things like that. And one day he messaged me on Facebook Messenger while we were in a different Clubhouse room, and he was like, yo, you should come into this room. Sotheby's is giving a talk on NFTs. And I was like, Sotheby's is giving a talk on what? And for people who don't know what Sotheby's is, they're like a huge, like, art house, right? They're like an auction house for like traditional artists, things like that. And so they were talking about NFTs and artists, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go into this room on Clubhouse. And so I went in and I was listening, and I listened for about 30 minutes, and I messaged him back and I was like, Pratik, I have no idea what the fuck I just heard. Like, what are these people talking about? What isn't it? I still don't know what an NFT is. I don't understand any of this stuff. And he was like, listen, just hang tight. You'll get it. And I was like, listen, this sounds great and all, but I think this is just like too high tech for me or something. Like, I don't know. And so I left, and he knew me too well. He knew, because remember in the beginning of the podcast where I said I don't like to be defeated by things?
Yes. Yeah.
He knew this about me. And so barely 12 hours went by before I started researching NFTs. And I was like, what is this thing that he's so excited about that I just don't understand? And about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks later, I hit him back up and I sent him the it's Sunny in Philadelphia meme of Charlie at the
yes.
board with all the lines connecting. I sent it to him and I said, I get it now. I understand. And so I spent like 2 weeks like researching NFTs, and I was on OpenSea NFT Bible and like all of this stuff. And like, what does this have to do with art and artists and one-of-one work and all of this stuff? And so I came back and I was like, I get it. He was like, you hyper-focused, didn't you? And I was like, I 100% hyper-focused. And he was like, I knew you would. And I was like, well, here we are. Now I guess I'm into NFTs. Now what's the next step? And so I got into NFTs as an artist, as a photographer. And this was back in March of 2021. And so I spent all of that time figuring out what pieces already existed that I wanted to list, or what pieces I wanted to make that I had been kind of sitting on that I decided to like stop being lazy and like actually create. And most importantly, back then, Foundation, which is a platform for artists, was invite only. You had to get an invitation. It was very exclusive, right? You're like, it'd be really cool. Yeah. And so I was like trying to figure out how to get enough attention to get an invite to Foundation and all of this stuff. And finally in March sometime I got my invite and I listed my work there. And 2 weeks after I listed my pieces, I had somebody purchase one of them. Thanks, Weesh.
Hey.
Weesh was my first collector ever. He's amazing and really appreciative of that still, because if it weren't for him, who knows if I would have given up or not, you know? And so we just kept rolling with it. And somewhere in April was when Bored Ape Yacht Club happened, and all of my one-on-one artists, friends, you know, were talking about these apes. And I was like, the fuck are these apes? Why are you buying this shit? Like, that was the part of NFTs I didn't get. I understood how NFTs and artists worked, and how it was beneficial to one-of-one artists and like fine artists and things like that, but I didn't understand the PFP yet. And so Bored Ape Yacht Club came and I was like, they all look the same. What the fuck are you buying? What is the point? They're like, oh, monkeys. And I was like, what? Like JPEGs, what? And I was like, what? And none of my friends could explain it to me, but they were all buying it because their friends were buying it, because that friend was buying it, because this friend was buying it.
No way.
And they were like, yeah, this is the next big thing. And it was like, but what is it? And nobody could explain it.
What do you mean this is the next big thing?
So I fucking faded Bored Ape Yacht Club, and that is my biggest NFT L to date, because I had every opportunity to buy Bored Ape Yacht Club, and I was like, this is stupid. Why would I buy that?
I don't blame you. I don't think I could have recognized what they would become either.
I don't know. And so I didn't get the PFP thing, and more of them were coming out, and I was checking like people's OpenSea wallets and seeing these random ass PFPs and like these really low brow, like low effort, you know, projects. I'm like, what the hell is this shit that people are buying? I don't get it. Like, are people high? Like, what is happening? And it wasn't until somewhere around maybe July, early August, somebody that I followed on Twitter had posted an Oni Force, right? And so and that was an anime project, and I love anime, shocker. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, what is that? I want it. Like, immediate reaction was like, I want it. And then I went, wait, why do I want that? Like, why do I want to spend, why am I suddenly compelled to spend money on this JPEG? And then I was like, no, that's stupid. Don't do this. Don't do this, Rose. What are you doing? And so I ignored it for about 24 hours, and I couldn't get it out of my head.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I hyper focus, right? And so finally, this person that had posted it, I had like a friendly enough relationship with them from Clubhouse that I finally DM'd them and was like, yo, so what is this thing that you posted? And they're like, oh, this is Oni Force, this is a project we're working on. And I was like, cool, tell me more. I want to know about this anime thing that you're doing. And so that launched, and I jumped in head first because suddenly there was a PFP project that I understood. It took something appealing to my personal, I don't know, love. I don't want to say aesthetic, but like my personal like interests for me to finally get it. It was an anime project. It was comic and metaverse, which I still didn't fucking understand. I didn't give a shit about the metaverse part, but I saw a comic and I saw art and I saw anime, and that's all I cared about. So I was like, yeah, let's go. And so I jumped in. And then after being like obsessed with it and never, ever, ever, ever leaving their Discord, they made me the lead mod. And I headed up a team of mods, and fast forward to November when one of my friends messaged me and was like, yo, I know you hate when people shield to you, but there's this NFT project that the lead artist from Overwatch, and I was like, shut the fuck up, don't say anymore, just give me the link, because I'm a huge Overwatch, like I have a tattoo on my wrist, my wallet is a Diva wallet, I'm quite literally, as I'm sitting here talking to you, wearing an oversized Diva hoodie dress, I'm staring at a Diva collectible on my desk, I just got done playing Overwatch before we got onto this podcast, like I fucking love Overwatch. And so all he had to say was Arnold Sang is the artist, and I was like, I'm in. I'll take my money. I don't even need to know what it is. Just like, give me the link. And so I jumped into Azuki in November just as a community member, just wanting to know more about the project and like wanting to know what is Arnold doing? You know, like I didn't know anything about Z or TPA or anybody. I was just like, Arnold Zing, let's go.
Arnold. No, I have all.
Yeah, I have like all of the. I have the Overwatch art book and like all of that stuff. And so I was just like, yep, I'm in. That's it. That's all I need to know. And so I hung out there, and I ended up like becoming friendly with them because I don't know, like I guess the time zones always worked out, and I would always go in like after I was done with modding for the day, I would jump into Azuki and just chill. And we always used to joke that it was like the bar that all the mods from other projects would come hang out in after work, you know? And so it became this big joke, and I became friends with them. And then somewhere in December, he asked me if I wanted to do a 4-week contract to coach their mods. And I was like, hell yeah, I do. And so I took that contract. It started in January, and then I started to coach the mods that they had existing there. And then by the end of January, they had offered me a job to become the full-time lead moderator. And I was like, hell yeah. So I moved to lead mod in Azuki, and then sometime in April, after NFTLA, they were like, hey, do you want to become a team member and become the actual community member for Azuki? And of course I said, hell yeah. And then here we are. So yeah.
And you know what? You've been killing it. First of all, it's amazing that your mentor in photography got this whole train started. It's just hard to imagine how your life went from photography to being immersed in a Web3 team that has been executing gracefully. Could you believe yourself if you told yourself 2 years ago that this would be your life?
No, absolutely not. I tell my husband that all the time. I was like, if 2021 Emily told 2022 Emily that she would be the community manager of one of the biggest NFT projects in the space, I would laugh and be like, the fuck is an NFT? What are you talking about? I'm never gonna ever pivot from my business ever. You're crazy. And then here we are, you know? So
and I love it because it takes a lot of courage to pivot like that, right? Because it's scary. It's very scary. And I commend you for taking the leap and being where you are now.
Yeah.
Moving forward then, like, what do you see 1 year, 2 years down the road?
You know, I actually don't know. Like I'm the kind of person that like once I find something that I like, I will like cling to it, right? So I have zero intentions of going anywhere other than Azuki for the foreseeable future. So when you ask me like, where do I see myself a year from now? Like at Azuki. Like what about 2 or 3 years from now? Like at Azuki. Like as long as Azuki exists, I want to be with Azuki. What I'll be doing within Azuki, I can't really say because, you know, right now I'm the community manager and I absolutely love it. But like Daph used to be the community manager and she got a promotion. So like, who knows if a year or two from now, something like a need opens up and then they're like, yo, Rose, we want you to do this instead. And I'm like, yeah, great. Sounds good. I don't know what that would look like, but like, as long as I need to be the community manager, I'll be the community manager. And if they need me to pivot to something else, then I'll do it, because I love this company and I love the community and I want to do whatever I can to make it thrive. So that's why I was saying it's kind of a hard question to answer, because I feel like Demna, like whenever we have like feedback sessions and things like that, he asks me these questions a lot about like, what are your career goals? What do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to like, I just want to do stuff, you know?
Azuki.
Yeah, it's just Azuki. Yeah, Azuki. So, I will say that I have been lending my photographic expertise to the team, in the background in terms of like retouching things. Like there's some stuff that you guys have seen that you don't know that I've retouched. And then there's been some like other things that I've helped them on photography wise in terms of like culling images or whatever. So I would absolutely love to continue to lend that part of my talents to Azuki as much as they need them. But like, again, I don't even know what that looks like yeah, a year or two from now. So
to see that, because I took a gander at the photography work that you did, and I thought they were amazing.
Thank you.
So if you guys don't know, Rose specialized in fashion senior photography and more modern portraiture. Yeah.
Right? Yep, that's it.
Yeah, for like 10 plus years. And so I think it would be amazing if you could combine that with Azuki. Heck, what if they came out with a magazine down the line, because they had so many clothing and apparel that they came out with, you know? I think there's something in the future for it.
It's the one thing that I do love about this job, and I say all the time, is I never know what the day is going to bring. So like I'll wake up, I have like an agenda when I wake up, you know, we have a sauna and we have like all these things in place that we use to keep ourselves organized. But, you know, I'll wake up on a Tuesday and think, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. And as soon as I log on, I have to completely 180 pivot, because either the team has made a change, or like there's a fire happening within the community that needs putting out, or like I never know. So that's one of the things I love about Azuki, is that it never gets boring, because even though I think I know what I'm doing for the day, I don't always know what I'm doing for the day. And so the same thing goes for like, you know, down the line, like what is Azuki going to look like in 2, 3, 5, 10 years? I don't know. I know what we think it's going to look like today, but that could change next week. That could change like 3 months from now. That could change a year from now. You know, like we do what feels right for our community and for the market and all of this stuff. You know, we're not like so stagnant that we can't ebb and flow with the tide, right? And so I love that we have a plan, but I also love that we can be flexible, and that's why I always say like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna flex with it, you know.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it takes every team member to be okay with change, to be okay to be flexible. Because, yeah, as you said, we see Azuki, every member sees Azuki as it is right now in a different way. And together with the community, we can kind of change and shift the way Azuki moves in a way, because the team is listening to its community through you. Mm-hmm. So everyone will see Azuki change, but I think the main premise is there, the main foundation is there to be that lifestyle brand, but just how they go about doing it will change. So I think it definitely takes a lot for the team and the community members to be able to adapt as the years go on here. So it'll be interesting to see where we end up.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting though. I'm excited, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm fully on board the train. Clearly, doing a podcast, which I have never done a podcast in my life. So, but hey, we're changing. And one thing I actually kind of wanted to talk about further was photography. You know, as I said earlier, you had 10 plus years of doing it, and so I'm kind of curious, how did you get into photography?
Oh man, that's a whole... So I feel like every change... I gave you like the least dramatic version of my transition into Azuki, but it really actually was quite dramatic. And I feel like every big change in my life happens around some fucking crazy drama. So photography was no different. So like around the time that I went into Azuki, the part that I skipped was that in December, you know, things weren't going so well for me in my life. Like my husband and I were trying to buy a house, and my long story short, my mortgage broker fucked it up. And we basically had to start the whole process over again. He failed to order our appraisal and all this stuff. And so we were getting ready to close on a house. Like we were getting ready to close. The house was ours. Like we were like just 2 weeks away from having the keys. And then it turns out we had to start all over again. And then the one dumb thing that we had done was our down payment was in ETH. And so we were about to pull the down payment for the house out and convert it to USD. And then we found out we had to start all over again. And so instead of pulling the money out anyway, we were like, all right, whatever, let's just start over again. And then of course the market crashed, right? So that was when ETH was like at 4,000 something, and then it crashed, and we're like, oh fuck, there goes our down payment. And so we could have still done the house. We still could have had the down payment. We still could have, you know, made our mortgage payments, all of this stuff, but things would have been a little bit tighter, and my husband rightfully was uncomfortable with that. And so we pulled out. At the same time, I lost my photography studio due to greed and gentrification, which is a whole other thing. And so like all of these things in my life were falling apart. My mod job had blown up previously. Like all of the things were just dramatic. I was very depressed. And then Demna was like, hey, do you want to coach our team? And I was like, fuck yes, please give me like anything that is like semi-positive in my life. And then so that happened. So backing the whole way up to when I became a photographer, I actually went to school for music recording technology. So to be the person in a studio that would record the albums that you guys listen to on Spotify, right? That was like my big passion. And I had played music from 3rd grade all the way up through college and to my audio career. And the thing is that I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I went to college in Pennsylvania. And so you don't get a ton of studio jobs in Pennsylvania. You get a lot of live audio, but not a lot of studio work. And I hated live audio with burning passion. I loved studio work. I hated live audio. And to get studio work, you would have to come somewhere like Nashville. That's how I ended up in Nashville. So my husband's a musician, and at the time I was gunning to be a recording engineer. And so that's why our sites were set on Nashville, but at the time we were still living in Pennsylvania, and I was getting live audio work, and I was actually getting live audio work with a production company out here in Nashville, and we would tour, but that was kind of miserable. And when I wasn't doing that, I was doing like temp jobs. So I was either the receptionist at a temp agency, but I was a temp at the temp agency. So like try to wrap your mind around that. So like I worked directly for the temp agency, but as a temp. So they didn't give me, I made minimum wage and I didn't have benefits. Right. It's so stupid. And that temp agency was I don't know how much time we have here, but that was a nightmare. So I'm trying not to use names, but the girl who ran the place was just an awful human being. She was like, I don't hate anybody, and most of the time, even if I don't like you, I can find some redeeming qualities within you. Like, yeah, we don't personally mesh, but they go to a soup kitchen once a week and feed the homeless, so that's nice of them. You know, like right. I can find something. She was not that person. She was genuinely a horrible human being. She was terrible to the people who would come in trying to find jobs. She would make fun of the people who were disabled after they left, and like it was just like she sucked. I hated her.
I hate her
and
too.
Her henchwoman would like be like, hey, yeah, that guy doesn't have an arm. And I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong? Yeah, like I'd be like, what is wrong with you people? Like these people are just trying to find work so they can support their lives, and you're sitting in your office saying you won't even interview them, even though his resume. Like I remember having this argument with them. There was this guy. I'm going off on a huge tangent. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. No worries.
But there was this guy that came in, and so I'm Puerto Rican. I don't speak Spanish fluently like I wish I did, but I'm Puerto Rican, and so there's this guy that came in who spoke only Spanish, and he did not bring a translator with him, and he came in during their lunch break, so it was just me and him in the office. That was it. And so he needed to fill out an application, and he spoke very broken, very, very broken English, like basically no English. And I spoke broken Spanish. And so I was like, fuck it, let's do this. And I sat in the lobby with him and helped him fill out his application in my very broken Spanish and in his broken non-English, right? And we filled this out, and it was like, oh my God, this guy's resume is perfect for these 20 jobs we're trying to fill at this one company. And so as soon as my boss came back from lunch, I handed her personally his application, and it was like, hey, I think you need to interview him for this job that you're trying to fill. And she goes, because he was still sitting in the lobby when she came in and she had saw her, she goes, is that the dude with the hand? Because his left hand was slightly deformed. Is that the dude with the hand? And I said, yeah. She goes, ugh, no, just send him out. I don't want to interview him. That's gross. And I was like, are you, what? I was so pissed. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I don't think you cannot interview somebody because you think their hand is gross. That's fucking stupid. So I was miserable at that job. Like, Ren, I don't know, like, how I can explain.
I totally get it. These people were shitbags.
In deep enough words that I was miserable, and I hated that place because that's the kind of stuff that they would do. You know, they would just take advantage of people, and then they wouldn't like give this poor dude a job that he was totally capable of doing because she didn't want to look at his hand during the interview. Like, it's fucked up. But anyway, so around that time, my husband comes home. He comes into my room and he says to me, so I did something. And I was like, what did you buy? He's like, well, and I was like, what did you buy? And he goes, I bought a $500 kick drum. My husband's a professional drummer. Okay, so I bought a $500 kick drum. I'm like, you bought a $500 kick drum? And he's like, yeah, but it's okay because my baby gets presents too. And I was like, great, what do I get? He goes, I don't know, what do you want? And I was like, I don't know, what's my budget? He goes, I don't know, like $200. So like, fuck you, dude. You spent $500 on a kick drum. You want to
hold on, this isn't fair. Wait.
Yeah, I was like, no. And he goes, okay. What do you want? I was like, I don't know. I had to think about it. Go away. Like, I'll get back to you later. And so over the next couple of days, I tried to decide what I wanted. And I had been recently toying with the idea of getting into photography because all my life growing up, it was something that had interested me. I used to like doodle when I was a kid, but I was not very good at drawing. My sister was better at like physical art than I was. And in high school, I thought about taking photography, but because I knew I wanted to go into music recording technology, I took electronics classes in high school instead to prep myself for college because I was going to have to do that in college as well. And the electronic classes were the same period as all the photography classes. So I never got to take photography in high school. Then again, in college, I thought about taking photography as an extracurricular, but you had to do some like art prerequisite that I didn't feel like doing. And you also had to like have a camera and all this stuff that I couldn't afford because I was too busy paying for audio gear and books. And so I skipped it in college. And so the itch was starting to come back again. And I had done some research and I decided that I wanted to get a Canon T2i, which was about $800 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so I went to my husband like 3 days later. I was like, I know what I want. He's like, what do you want? I was like, I want a camera. He goes, okay, what kind of camera? I was like, I showed him the exact one. Somewhere in the beginning of the year, I was like, I know we can't afford it now. I want it for Christmas. This is my Christmas gift. I want this camera. And he was like, okay, great. And so we had agreed to that. And I got into photography forums and I had my like Nikon Coolpix point and shoot camera that I started playing with. And I started learning all of this stuff about photography ahead of time, despite the fact that I didn't have the camera to do it. And about a month after being in the forums and getting like shitty feedback because all I had was a point and shoot, right. My husband comes into our room again and he hands me a check and he's like, hey, your tax return check came in. And the year prior I had been single because he and I had just gotten married. And he goes, this is technically yours. Because this is from your tax returns before we were married. And it was $800. He's like, go get your camera. Way. And I was like, yeah. So I got my camera well before Christmas, like immediately sped down to the Best Buy like 2 hours away because they were the only ones that had the camera, bought it, and then just started shooting. And then a year later realized I wanted to become a portrait photographer and kind of dived into all of that. And here we are. So again, like quarter life crisis, like big, like, I hated my life. I was like, I want to do something else.
I imagine that job was killing you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it came from your husband, like, buying a $500
Right,
kick drum, and then you're
right.
like, okay, hold on, I do want something. Just give me a second here.
Yeah, so that's how that happened. And while I was working at that shitty job, I was always trolling Craigslist for better jobs. And there's this company called Life Touch, which I don't know if they still do the whole US, and I don't know if they do anything outside the US, but they're essentially yearbook photographers, right? So in September of that year,
yes.
Yeah.
That sounded familiar. They
Yeah,
did my pictures. Yeah.
yeah, they also own a company called Prestige, which I think is under the Life Touch brand now. But in any case, they in September were looking for photographers, and so I said, "Fuck this job." I left my temp job to go work for Life Touch for about 7 months, and then from there went on to more shitty temp jobs. But all the while, at that point, I had been studying photography and practicing photography and getting better and better and better, and I had hated my life less and less and less because I actually had like a purpose to work towards again. So yeah, that was 11 years, and then fast forward to Azuki, and here we are.
Amazing. What a road.
Right?
Like that's a wild road, because like you said earlier, like you just get hyper focused, and
Yeah.
you came from humble beginnings of working with Life Touch, where you're just doing these basic photography photos for kids in their schools, and then you became a photographer who took these senior photos, which are amazing, by the way. Like, people should check out the photos that you've done. And you actually received like a bunch of honors for it from 2016 to 2020. You were consistently a winner in the Senior Style Hot 100 Awards.
Yep.
What was it like to receive those kinds of honors after coming from such humble beginnings?
I don't even think my website's updated with the most recent one. I think 2021 was the last year that I won.
Oh, okay.
I think 2020. Yeah, so it was 2021, and then the pandemic hit because I didn't win during the pandemic because I wasn't shooting, right? So I just didn't submit those years because there was no point. But it was so funny. The first year that I entered, one of my colleagues was like, "Yo, you should enter this," and I was like, "No, I don't. Fuck that. I don't want to enter that. It's just a circle jerk for a bunch of photographers. What does that even mean? Like, who cares?" And they were like, "No, you should enter." And I was like, "What? I'm not gonna win." They're like, "No, I think you'll win." And I was like, No. So finally, I don't know. Again, I don't like to be defeated, right? So
Yes, of course.
I was just like, ugh, fine, I'll enter. And so I like submitted a bunch of images, and I kept telling myself I wasn't going to win and not to have any expectations and not to hold my breath and whatever. And so the month and a half or 2 months goes by while they're like tabulating and doing the judging and things like that. And I logged onto Facebook because I was still using Facebook at that time. And one of my friends said, "Oh my God, Emily, congratulations." And I was like, for what?
Yeah.
And they're like, and they had seen the list before I did. And they're like, "Dude, you're top 100." And I was like, "What? No. And so I went on the list looking for my name, thinking like, there's no fucking way. They saw another Emily on there. Like, it wasn't Emily McGonigal. It was Emily McGregory or something similar. Like, whatever. It definitely wasn't me. And I found my name, and I was like, no.
Wait.
No. I was like still in denial. I was like, no. They can't be right. Like, what are the images? Like, I need to see that it's my image, because they had just listed the names, not with the images, right?
Yes.
And I was like, I don't believe it. And I think if I remember correctly, I even emailed them and I was like, "Do you mean me?" And they're like, "Yeah, you." And I was like, "What?"
That is your name. I mean,
I was like in denial 3 different times. I was like, no. And so I lost my absolute shit. The first year that I submitted was the first year that I won. And I was like, I don't understand how this happened. This has to be a fluke. And so the second year came around and I submitted again, and I said to myself, like, you got lucky last year. There's no fucking way you're gonna win 2 years in a row. Like, don't have expectations. And then of course the second year came along and I hit 100 again. And every year that I submitted, I hit. And every year I submit, I always tell myself, like, don't be disappointed. Like, there's a lot of great photographers out there. And like, no. And I don't know, like, it's like both humbling and also like really exciting, because I always tell myself I'm not gonna win.
Yeah.
And then I do. And then but I'm also like, I don't take for granted the fact that, like, I don't just submit whatever images. Like, I take my time and I select the best ones that I feel like have a chance, and like I take it seriously every year I submit it, because I don't just like have this attitude that because I took it, it's good. You know what I mean? So like when I'm shooting through the year, especially if I know that it's a client that has a really cool concept that I want to submit for Hot 100, like I'm very intentional about it, and I'm like trying my best, and then telling myself like, this might not win. It doesn't mean it's not a good photo, but you might not win. And I don't know, like it's always just really exciting and flattering to see my name on there every year, even though like 4 years in a row I've won. Was it 4 years? I don't know. I lost track. How many was that? I think it's 4.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like, I'm always in disbelief every year. Like every year I look and I'm like, you might not see your name. It's okay if you don't see your name. And then I do it. I'm like, oh my God, I did it.
It's incredible because like in 2020, you even won like multiple times for different categories, right?
For different categories. Yeah. Not every year did I win multiple categories, but the first year, especially, I won different categories, which was really mind blowing to me. And then I don't remember. I think the second year I only won 1. I think the third year I might have won 2 categories. I don't quite remember. And then last year, I believe I only won 1. Or not last year. The last year that I entered, 2021, I believe I only won 1. But yeah, especially the year that I won multiple categories, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's been great.
No, it's amazing to even just receive such an honor in something that you've worked hard in, and you've clearly done like your homework, and your photos show that you've done your homework. You've done retouching to all of them as well, I imagine, and they're amazing. So
thank you.
So honestly, like I hope Azuki can implement that talent of yours with that with your photography.
and they have. They're slowly utilizing me a little bit more here and there. I mean, obviously I don't live in LA, so it's hard for them to like use me for straight up campaigns and things like that. But like I've definitely helped retouch some of the images that you've seen on the website, and I've helped retouch some of the things that go on Twitter and things like that. And you know, they've like tapped into my photography expertise a little bit more. And I'm constantly like, I'm here if you need me. So, you know, so we'll see what happens in the future. You know, like I said, it may not be something that is part of my like full-time work, but I'm always really excited and happy when I get to tap into that part of my talent to help make Azuki better, you know? So whenever they're asking me like, hey, do you think you can reach out? I'm like, yes, I'm on it. Like I already got my Wacom tablet in my hand, my pen in my hand. I'm like, yep, I'm already working on it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
What a road from photography all the way to NFT Web3 community manager for one of the biggest brands in NFTs.
Surreal.
So it's
super
just
surreal.
Insane. What a road. And I guess kind of looking forward now to 2023 with Azuki, what do you think you're most excited for in the new year? Because obviously 2022 was full of so much. Like I can't even keep track of all the amazing things that happened, right? From the LA event, from that airdrop during the LA event, all the way to Lei on Red Bull, like on a car.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much that happened in 2022. I can't even imagine what's in store for 2023. So what are you most excited about?
You know, this is another difficult question to answer because I know what I'm most excited about, but I can't talk about what I'm most excited about.
Oh, so you already know? Oh, no.
So that's the thing is like we don't stop working ever.
Never,
like when you guys see the release, we've already been working on like when Lei came out, like we're already working on the next thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, when we get our, you know, we're on holiday break right now, so you know, I'd say we don't stop working ever. We do definitely like take mental health and like take care of ourselves, but like in terms of like, you know, okay, we released this, like there isn't like a downtime. Like it's not like Lei is down, all right, everybody take a week off. We're like, all right, what's the next thing? Let's go. So Yeah, I'm all I can say is that 2023 is going to be a banger, and I'm really excited to help do what I do, like connect the community with the team and vice versa, and just kind of help be that person that's like on the front lines of communication and just like hanging out, making friends, and doing whatever it is the community manager at Azuki does. So I say that jokingly because everybody's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, that's a good question.
Everything.
A good question. Everything. But yeah, I'm just excited to keep growing and to keep building and to keep learning with Azuki and the team and the community as we push forward into what 2023 has to hold for all of us.
I think it's safe to say that 2023 for Azuki and the community is going to be just as good as 2022, if not better. I can definitely say that I'm excited for 2023, obviously, because of my own passion in doing podcasting, learning, and just being curious about not just community members, but also the Azuki team, such as yourself, and getting to know everyone at a deeper level, right? Because it's fun to be excited about, an Azuki announcement, go on Twitter Spaces and talk and be like, guys, Azuki, I love it. I love you guys. I love you. I love you. This is awesome. But I want to dive deeper on each community member, because everyone has gone through so many different things in life, and I think there's a lot of stories to be had there. So for me, I'm definitely excited building my own kind of IP and brand and this podcast and just learning about the community.
Yeah, I know. And I love this. Like, I love the concept for your podcast because of that, because there's so many different like personalities and people that are like doing such great things, but then you get to know them a little bit better and a little bit deeper, and like, oh my God, like, I thought you were cool before, but like you're a whole other level of like amazing that I didn't even know existed, So I love it. I love the concept. I love getting to know people better. I can't honestly can't wait to hear when this releases. That's why I asked you earlier. I was like, oh wait, did I miss an episode already? Because I totally want to listen to this and get to know everybody better. And like, I think that's, again, going on a tangent, sorry, but I get calls sometimes from other communities, other community managers or other community leaders asking me if I'm willing to talk with them about what a community manager does, or they're getting ready to hire a community manager and like what to look for in people and things like that. And I always tell them, like, in my mind, the most important thing is to get to know your community on a personal level. And that's why, like, I post a lot of dumb shit on Twitter that has nothing to do with Azuki, but like that's kind of on purpose, because I don't want people to look at me as just Rose at Azuki. I want people to look at me at Rose at Azuki who also loves XYZ thing, or also jokes about XYZ thing, or like wants to get to know people personally, because that's, I think, where I make the most impact, is like knowing who you are and what you're about, and knowing who Ebe is and what you're about, and knowing who like, Planted is and what he's about, knowing what Dashond is about, and like knowing what A's is about, and
Sunways,
like
Ashal, there's so many
like,
people.
Yeah. And like hanging out with people in group chats, like not as a community member, but just like as a person, and like laughing at their dumbass memes and like the sussy stuff, and like talking to people if they've had a rough day and be like, yo man, like what's going on? Like, how can I help you? And like getting to know people on a personal level, I think makes such a bigger impact than just constantly like tweeting about Azuki. Exactly. Like, which I do all the time, don't get me wrong. Like, I think that my Twitter feed's probably like 70-30 Azuki personal stuff, but I think that there aren't, I think that the most impactful community members or community managers that I've observed in the space are those that want to genuinely, like, have a genuine interest in their community members as people, and not as like numbers, or not as PFPs, as you say. So like getting behind the PFP is super important, which is why I'm excited that you're doing this podcast.
Exactly. And thank you for ending it off in that way. Is there any other thing that you want to say to the community?
Oh man, I love you guys. Happy birthday, Rose. Ikuzo!
Ikuzo. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll close it off there. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Behind the PFP. Please consider subscribing and following the podcast. And if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to DM me. And with that, I'll catch you on the flip side.